I'm Father Pullman.
And I'm Father Schumacher. And we
are the Associates.
Welcome back to Ask the Associates. Father, how do you make someone from a completely different religion than the Christian denominations come enter the Catholic Church?
That is a good question. Well, you can try means that are unfruitful, such as coercion, threats.
Just like pick them up and throw them into the church?
Yeah, you can tie them up and drag them into the church. Again, these are all things that won't work. But then, so you got those, and then you've got the methods that tend to work better. All right, so these would require God's grace. This is all being assumed, so you need to be an instrument. So pray, grow in holiness. But on the human mode of things, what you need to do is first recognize the underpinning error that needs to be addressed. So before we get to these other religions, so what's one of the most common things that we need to address with every Christian denomination? Sola Scriptura. All right, the Bible does not say Bible alone. It says in one of the letters to Timothy that the church is the bulwark or the foundation of truth, not Scripture. So likewise, we want to do something comparable with these other religions. So I'll take one example. I'll let you take over for a little bit at least. So let's take Hinduism, for example. Right. So they have all of these different gods, and it's if you study Hinduism, there's all these different branches. But one of the fundamental things that these variations of Hinduism will have is this religious relativism. So they wouldn't be opposed to even having Christ as a God among many. And they're okay with these gods even contradicting each other. So, well, if Christ is truth, we have no tolerance for this. So something cannot be different in the same respect at the same time. So this is ingrained in us, and we would need to convey to our Hindu friend that they actually hold this as well. And if you can get them to actually see that they want to hold an objective truth that's true for everyone, well, then you're going to find that you're making good headway. Would you care to?
Yeah. So I think you've laid the foundation there very well, because what we want to do is notice what are they wrong about, and that's where we need to start, right? What's the foundational thing that they're wrong about? Because that's where we need to correct the path and get it onto the right path. But also, if you get to the point where they're wrong about something, which, for example, the Protestants wrong about sola scriptura are a lot closer than maybe a Hindu would be, because they have a lot of things right along the way up to that point. So what that means is the point where you find the foundational divergence is also the point where you find the foundational thing in common. So with back to your Hindus, for example, they do actually they have a kind of mystical worldview, say, right? And so Christians could say, yeah, you're looking for this divine reality, right? And you kind of express it with these different manifestations of the divine reality, and you call them different names, and you call them gods, right? And so you say, oh yeah, we'd be fine with letting Jesus into this party, right? And that's where we diverge, right? It's like, no. He's not a manifestation of the divine reality. He is the divine reality. He's revealed himself. And that's exactly what you're looking for. So we have something in common, but then that's where we diverge. So that's where we need to kind of make the correction, as it were. Think of some other things, like Buddhists. It seems to me that the foundational error of Buddhism is that they misunderstand what beatitude is, what the point of human life is. They think of it as annihilation. Nirvana is this kind of dissolution into the oneness of all being, right? The loss of consciousness. It's like, no, We want to be alive. We want to be totally alive and alert and aware.
Yes.
And
Well, like when we speak as Christians of deification or divinization, we are taken up into the divine life of God, but we're not destroyed to do it. We become most truly ourselves.
right. So, and as I say, that's where you have the point of in common and the point of divergence, right? Because they want beatitude. They just misconceive what beatitude is. So you say, yes, you want beatitude. I agree. Good. That's a good thing to want. Here's how you actually do it. Or with a philosophical atheist, say, or someone whose objection to the Christian religion is on philosophical grounds. Well, you'd say, okay, good. Philosophy is a good thing. Using your brain, using your mind, right? I agree with you. Here are some reasons why you can actually believe that there is a God, right? Just from natural reason. You don't even need to use the Bible to do this, right? So again, you kind of find where is the error, where's the hang up with Christianity, and that's where you begin. Now, be careful because sometimes the error is actually more subtle than we think of at first. We kind of latch on to something that kind of irritates us, but it actually isn't the foundational thing. So that's why oftentimes these efforts don't bear fruit. It's because you're actually addressing something that's too far down the line. You need to get down to even more fundamental things. But generally, that's what you want to do, is find where is that divergence point so that you also have something in common right before that, and then you can correct the error and get them back on the right path.
Yes. And maybe we'll get some other particularities. So I remember talking to a man when I was in seminary. He saw me in clerics and said, I used to be a Catholic and now I'm a Buddhist. It's like, okay, so why is that? It's like, well, they basically teach the same thing. The Buddha teaches to be a good person. So is that person this theological Buddhist that is really focused on what the Buddhists are teaching about nirvana? No. And yet, that's a good opportunity to point out a fundamental difference between any of these other religious leaders. For them, it was about what they taught, but for us, it's not about what Christ taught. He has moral teaching that flows from who he is. But what matters is that Christ is truly man and truly God. So to be able to say, well, no, that's not enough for me as a Catholic. That wakes them up to recognize that there is something different. Because if they recognize that they don't hold the same thing, that actually can be the beginning of making what I have attractive, simply because I've made them aware that they're outside of it.
Right, so there can be, and this maybe is something to give a warning about also, especially in our modern Western liberal society, this aversion to conflict, this kind of general acceptance of everyone, this virtue of tolerance, which isn't a virtue at all, in fact. We don't want to cause pain and division, right? That's kind of, it's bred into us by our society. And there's certain goodness in that, to want to avoid being irritating to people.
We can say gentleness is a fruit of the Holy Spirit, for instance.
Right. But we also ought not to be afraid to contradict people where we disagree with them. And you can do that in a gentle way. You can do that in a kind way. But actually, at that point, when this person says, I'm a Buddhist because Jesus basically just teaches that we're supposed to be good people, you say, no, that's actually not what he teaches. He teaches that you are supposed to go to heaven. That's the point of Jesus' teaching, is resurrection. It's not about the moral life. The moral life flows from it, right? But it's actually not about the moral life. It's about life with God in heaven. So when this person proposes something that's wrong, you don't just say, oh, yeah, well, that's basically what I say. No. You say, no, that's not what I say. And you contradict him at that point, and then you can have a conversation. Because if you just seed the ground right at the beginning, well, then there's nothing to talk about.
And I think to put this in perspective, let's say they're used to or anticipate a reaction of, you're going to agree with me, and then you don't. And then they get offended by it. I don't think there's anything unreasonable or uncharitable about gently standing your ground and saying, well, this is what I believe. I mean, would you respect me if I didn't accurately represent to you what I believe?
Yeah. So be confident in your own beliefs, and be confident in the conversation. Be calm and gentle in the conversation. Find where the errors are, where the differences are, especially the foundational difference, and proceed from there. I think that's how you bring people into the church.
Yeah, I think perhaps in closing, just to call to mind, although I may paraphrase this terribly, St. Peter's words, to have ready a reason for your faith.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks for watching Ask the Associates. We're wrapping up our question box, and we just want to thank you for your questions.
We thank you for walking along with this kind of format that we've had. We recognize we didn't actually answer every question that was submitted to us. If you're one of those people that were waiting for us to address your question, we found that some of them weren't appropriate for this forum. So while either of us would be willing to meet with someone privately, and especially if it's of a sensitive matter, confidentially, you're certainly welcome to contact us to meet with you on an individual basis. So with that said, we have more or less wrapped up those questions that have been submitted to us.
And so we're thinking about starting a new kind of style, or a new little format of kind of a self-directed presentation of different topics of the faith. So we'll be hoping to present those to you in the next couple weeks.
Father, will they still get to ask questions?
Sure, you can still ask questions, especially follow-up questions on the topics that we have. Your questions might kind of direct us to present different topics that you're interested in. So we're looking forward to that.
Stay tuned.